Welcome to the American Club's online series. Today we have a really nice one. It's with our sister city, Chicago. Again, we were there just last week, and it's nice to be back. We're going to pay tribute to the Adler Planetarium's 90th anniversary. The Planetarium Hamburg just celebrated its 90th birthday. And I'd like to pass it over to Thomas Kraupe, the director of Planetarium Hamburg. Thomas?
It's a pleasure seeing you all, and a great honor speaking around the globe to Chicago and friends there. And we just celebrated a few days ago, but because of the pandemic, also without people on site. But may I take you a little bit to our planetarium before we move over to Chicago, which celebrates today. Okay, I just have to see, hopefully you will see what I see right now, right?
Yes.
Okay, it's 90 years and this planetarium is in an old water tower. And you see like a flight around that tower. It's a beautiful landmark and landmark building in Hamburg. It was erected during the First World War. So it was finished in 1917, 1916, 1917. And it still has the old water tank inside in the upper part. That's not the planetarium, what you see on top. The dome here is just people think this is the planetarium up there, but the planetarium is way below in the building. But you see in the background also the city of Hamburg. It's not in the center, but it's also related, like Chicago, the Adler, to water. We are connected with the waterways of Hamburg. We're through the cascades, which are now active, not in this building, not in this phase where we took those images a few weeks ago. But you see there are cascades would be coming out of the building. And
we don't see any of the pictures, Thomas. You need to scroll through the pictures.
You don't see the video? You don't see the video? I'm sorry?
It's just a still, right?
Do you see a picture?
I see a still.
Yeah, no, I have to, I'm sorry. You saw did you see the tower, the flight around the tower? No?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, that's really bad. Okay, I tried to, let me just go back. Do you see anything now? Do you see the tower?
We see the starting screen.
Okay. But you don't see, well, you see this tower, and okay. You don't see the video going?
You're still on the first slide.
Yeah, first slide.
Okay, then, okay. I'm sorry, I thought I show you a flight around the building, but it doesn't work. I hope that my video works with the flight to later. Anyhow, that's strange.
Houston, we have a problem.
Houston. It's not Chicago, we have a problem. As you see the inside, we expanded the building with an extra floor below now, like every planetarium, like Chicago did, I think like 15 years ago, something around that, or 20. An extra floor level, that's the the foyer. And these two iconic figures from Hamburg, sort of symbolic of the city of Hamburg. And you see on the ceiling this old mural, like every old planetarium has one with constellations. And the planetarium is historic, but it's very modern now. Certainly the Zeiss star ball, but we have a digital 8K projection system. And we are the first planetarium in the world who combines 3D visuals with 3D sound. So it's an immersive 3D environment. You see people wearing glasses, 3D glasses, and it's quite impressive. with more than 300,000 visitors a year as a standalone planetarium. We don't have, unfortunately, like the Adler has, big exhibit space, and the Adler is much more. It's also a big museum. We have just the planetarium theater and not so many spaces, but our focus is on combining science and the arts. We have a grand piano here seen with two very well-known artists. One is Rolf Zukowski from Hamburg, who is a composer for children mainly, but he's well-known over Germany, and we produced many shows with him and his family. Martin Tingvall is a Swedish-based composer and jazz piano player. So we got this grand piano, this Steinway, in our theater. So it's very important for us to bring different perspectives on the cosmos to the people, not just to reach out for the cosmos in terms of numbers and facts, but also in terms of inspiration. The planetarium is a place where we tell stories about the stars, stories that connect us with our environment, Earth and the cosmos. So that's why you see this astronaut. This was our iconic image for the reopening 3 years ago after we expanded the building, with an astronaut having a violin in its hands, which may be certainly impossible for him to play, but we bring together like science symbolized explorers, astronauts by creative explorers who create the mental cosmos. So unlimited creativity for the arts and the sciences when they are combined in the theater. So that's what we do. And we also have English content. Most of our shows are bilingual, so we present them in different languages. Here is just an excerpt of shows ranging from astronomy to the arts, and also for children's and others. So I hope the focus certainly now is not on our planetarium, but it's fascinating to see that our planetarium was opened on April 30th in 1930, and only a few days later, Chicago, the Adler Planetarium was opened, which is a planetarium, the first planetarium beyond, on the other side of the Atlantic. So the first planetarium in the Americas, a big historic achievement. This wonder from Jena, this machine that symbolizes the cosmos, the central star machine, which now is complemented by digital media, which we use, and digital tools to simulate, to immerse people with the cosmos, be it an artistic cosmos or a cosmos based on scientific simulation. And if I may, I send some greetings also from, shall I do that, David?
You try it there. If it doesn't go on your side, send me the file, and then while we have some others, I
The sister cities,
Does it
Hamburg
play?
and Chicago,
yes.
have a lot in common.
Now?
Both
Yes.
are traditional trade hubs and the hearts of metropolitan areas with strong regional economies. We are green cities committed to stop climate change according to the Chicago Climate Charter. We have a rich cultural life and we love the stars. This year, we celebrate the 90th birthday of our planetariums. They both opened in 1930, making them two of the oldest worldwide. Happy birthday to the Adler Planetarium Chicago, and best wishes from your sister city, the free and Hanseatic city of Hamburg.
And that was quite a year in 1930 as well, right? That was just in February, Pluto was discovered just a couple of months prior to both of your planetariums opening, and so the whole world was all of a sudden interested in astronomy during that year. It was quite a time.
Yes. So let me
Well, thanks for playing the Grußwort, the words of congratulations from our Mayor Tschentscher here in Hamburg. I would like to now hand over to our Consul General, the U.S. Consul General in Hamburg, for the responsible for the 5 Northern German Länder, DARION AKINS. DARION?
Can you hear me okay, David?
Sure can.
No, thank you very much, David. Thanks for the introduction. Thomas, thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it. Yeah, so I just wanted to also just take a moment to just say hello to Chicago, wish a happy 90th birthday to the Adler Planetarium. And if I may, I just want to speak a little bit about the Sister City partnership and what it means. I think it's important here to note, sister cities like Chicago and Hamburg, they really share a lot. Formal agreements, exchange programs, great institutions that enrich the lives of our communities. And 2 of these institutions, the Adler Planetarium and Hamburg Planetarium, share a great working relationship. And they also happen to share their 90th birthday this spring. So what better occasion than our joint American-German get together today to recognize this twin anniversary while also congratulating the Planetarium Hamburg on its 90th birthday as well. Today, we celebrate these extraordinary anniversaries together, separated by more than 4,000 miles. Now that sounds like a lot, but you know, with the way the planetariums measure distance in light years, it's not that far. And it's not only the technology that enables us this human connection today, it's also the engaged citizens of Chicago and Hamburg that make it happen. And I sincerely thank all of them, especially in a moment when physical distance bears heavy on us, no matter which side of the Atlantic we find ourselves on. So, congratulations to our friends in Chicago on their 90th birthday, but congratulations for, like our partner here in Hamburg, the Hamburg Planetarium, 90 years of inspiring people of all ages and way beyond city limits. On 90 years of engaging the public, of educating, of sparking our imagination, of expanding our thinking to realms we didn't even think existed, on 90 years of making us dream in dimensions we didn't think were possible, on 90 years of inviting everyone to discover and explore science, and more than that, for inviting everyone to share in the excitement of experiencing science, on 90 years of making people feel awe and wonder about the world and beyond, and for showing us what it is to be humans and what humans are capable of. You've shown us, both Hamburg and Adler Planetarium, you've shown us that the sky is not the limit. So let me just end with this. For 26 years, Chicago and Hamburg sister city relationship has thrived because of its many diverse and expanding ties that reach all segments of society: secondary, higher education, science, sports, business, culture, and professional exchanges, all with the goal to better understand each other, to learn from each other, and create opportunities for working together. What fills this relationship with life is the engagement of its citizens, the people to people and professional to professional connections. Today's virtual celebration in honor of Adler Planetarium, fast approaching its centennial, shows us just how important and meaningful institutions and citizens are in deepening the transatlantic bonds that connect our cities and our countries. From us here in Hamburg to all of you in Chicago, happy 90th birthday, Adler Planetarium.
Thank you so much, Consul General AKINS. That is so nice. And this is, 90 years of, well, this is celebrating our sister cities, Hamburg and Chicago. And you mentioned 90 years a couple of times. That's what we're celebrating here. Just don't make no mistake. These old planetarium have this most state-of-the-art equipment and projection systems. And incredible imaging visualizations. I highly encourage anybody who hasn't gone yet to go to your respective planetarium. I wanted to say also that we had asked the Mayor Lightfoot, Lori Lightfoot in Chicago, to say some words. She is so busy these days right now with the opening in Chicago with the COVID that she sent a message that she will probably will address us in a couple of weeks' time, and maybe we'll have her on for to talk about the status there and further about the sister city relationship and the economic side as well. I did get a statement from our Consul General, from the German Consul General in Chicago, who's responsible for the 13 US Midwestern states, Consul General Wolfgang Müssinger, and I will play his statement now.
Dear friends of the Adler Planetarium, 90 years ago, space enthusiasts in Chicago and Hamburg opened planetariums. It was a time of many scientific breakthroughs and full of optimism. Many people wanted to use new technologies to see more of what surrounds our planet. This curiosity still drives us today. Many generations of pupils, students, and their parents and teachers went to these planetariums to satisfy this curiosity and to enjoy the various space shows on offer. It is a fortunate coincidence that the two planetariums celebrate their 90th birthday within a couple of weeks. But it is not a coincidence that they have cooperated for many years in many projects. As to their cities, Chicago and the free and Hanseatic city of Hamburg. For more than 25 years, they are sister cities with great ambitions and enthusiasm to make this relationship work on many levels. Be it school exchanges or visits of officials, be it police cooperation or cultural events. Hamburg and Chicago are contributing to fostering German-American friendship. On behalf of the German federal government, I would like to thank the leaders of both cities for that. Today, it is time to congratulate Adler Planetarium for their 90th anniversary. I wish all the staff and the public that we will soon be able again to enjoy visions from outer space here on Lakeshore in Chicago. Happy birthday.
Hello everybody. Best greetings and wishes for the anniversary to both planetariums from the Hamburg-Chicago Sister City Committee. We hope it's possible to visit Chicago in October together with 25 Hamburg runners for the Chicago Marathon, and we will definitely visit the Adler Planetarium as well. Best greetings to all.
I would like to go over to ADRIENNE Tongate, who's on the Chicago side, working for sister cities for the city of Chicago. ADRIENNE?
Thank you. Good afternoon and good evening, everyone. Chicago Sister Cities are national, advances Chicago as a global city, but more than that, our mission is to promote peace through mutual respect, understanding, and cooperation through citizen diplomacy. And we have 29 sister cities around the world and 600 volunteers here in Chicago. And interestingly, I was looking at Hamburg sister cities, and we share many sister cities with Osaka, Prague, and Shanghai. So I think there's probably more opportunities to figure out more exchanges. This year, we're celebrating our 60th anniversary with our first sister city in Warsaw. So we're not quite 90, but we're getting up there. When we do our work, it's through the work of volunteers that make us really successful. So I'd like to thank the Hamburg committee members, many of whom are joining us here today on this call, and particularly CHRISTOPH and Charlene, who are our co-chairs, for their strong leadership. As a few of you have said, Hamburg and Chicago have been sister cities since 1994, and we have one of the most active partnerships in the Chicago organization. So I want to thank you for including us in this really wonderful event. I was really happy to learn about the partnership from Consul General AKINS between the Adler and Hamburg planetariums. The Adler is one of my favorite museums or institutions in Chicago, and we make sure that we bring a lot of our delegation to visit Chicago there. And the type of work and research being done by the Adler is part of what makes Chicago a world-class city. And these type of partnerships help to make both of us strong, engaged global cities. So to both the Adler and the Hamburg Planetariums, congratulations on your 90th anniversaries. And I hope that you have many more years of good exchanges. So thank you.
Thanks, Adrienne. And now I'd like to go to Charlene Sobey, who works directly with the partnership Hamburg, Chicago. Charlene, are you?
Actually, I am here. Actually, it will be CHRISTOPH LICHTENFELD who will speak on behalf of the Hamburg Sister Cities Committee.
Perfect. Is Christoph there? Well, while he's trying to connect, how about Rolf Kochilis, who's also Hamburg ambassador in Chicago? Oh, I see Christoph. Christoph, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Okay.
Okay,
Yes,
great. I'm
Go
sorry
ahead.
about this. On behalf of the Hamburg Committee, both committee co-chairs, Charlene Sobey and I, congratulate Planetarium Hamburg and Chicago's Adler Planetarium on their 90th anniversary this year. The planetariums are one of many things our two sister cities have in common. They exemplify the mission of sister cities to foster international cooperation and understanding through contact and interaction on a person-to-person basis. For 90 years, the planetariums have welcomed thousands of visitors from around the world, educating them about the beauty and mystery of the universe, and surely have inspired many a future astronomer or astronaut. We wish them many more years of stellar success. And although we cannot express our best wishes in person due to today's challenging circumstances, we take comfort in knowing that no matter what is happening here on Earth, the planets and stars are still there to awe and inspire us. Thank you, Planetarium Hamburg and Adler Planetarium, for pointing out our eyes to the skies. Thank you.
Thank you, Christoph. Christoph Lichtenfeld is a Hamburg ambassador, or honorary representative in Chicago. So I would like to then pass back to Thomas to take us to initiate the flyover. Please, Thomas.
Okay, thank you. Maybe I try to see if the video, just to see if that is running now this way, just to see the building.
There we go. That looks good.
Okay.
Yes.
The water tower from which we will take off within a minute, just to show you. It's also quite a beautiful location in Hamburg, in the middle of Stadtpark. I think the resolution of the video was too high for the Zoom. It's a 4K video. So you see the axis, and you will see it's similar to, there's some similarity between Hamburg and Chicago. It's a grand architecture, an interesting location. By the way, in the background, you see the city and you see the tower from the other side with the 90, with the banners on top. Okay, I move over to the, let me just go to the video, to the flyover. I have to open it also in another way. This was created in our planetarium. Every planetarium these days uses software, digital software to visualize the cosmos, and it starts always from where we are. So powers of 10 come to your mind, maybe that famous term, that famous book and famous visualization. So it's a sort of a fly out from Hamburg, from the planetarium, from top of the planetarium, created with the planetarium software. You see the tower, do you see it? Does it work, the flight?
Yes.
Okay, there's the Elbe River, Hamburg, and the island, the biggest island in a river in Europe. That's Wilhelmsburg, part of Hamburg, between the two arms of the Elbe River, which flows into the North Sea to the left. And you see on the north of it, you have Denmark and Norway, and Hamburg is, so to say, between two oceans, the Baltic Sea and the North Sea in the north of Europe, at 53° north, so way north of Chicago. And that's the current situation. That's our beautiful planet right now, what you see. So you see nightfall to the east of us already, and you see the Atlantic. We fly across the Atlantic to the United States of America, and we are heading towards the Great Lakes and to Chicago, one of my favorite cities, if not the most favorite in the US. Very cultivated city. It's fantastic. And that planetarium, the location of the Adler Planetarium is second to none on this planet, I must say. And it's one of my favorite planetariums in the world, and most beautiful in both location, directly at the river. We aiming at the planetarium. It's in an artificial area created. Here you see the round area, the planetarium dome, and the modern expansion and the access towards the loop, where all the museums, the field museums and other museums are. And just a look at, I'm sorry, I have to, if you allow me another picture, I want to continue and this up as I tried already later to show you this most beautiful view of Chicago. I love that planetarium, and it looked different 90 years ago. Look at that. And Andrew is with us, and that's 1930. I don't know if he has these pictures. And I just want to end with a comparison of the two. You see an axis, Hamburg, the main axis of the Stadtpark, of the Civic Park, and the axis towards the downtown area, towards Chicago on the left from the Adler Planetarium. So here we are at the beautiful Adler Planetarium in Chicago. And just yesterday, I had almost every day I'm having a Skype call with Chicago and my colleagues there. Mark Subarao, currently president of the International Planetarium Society, one of the dear colleagues, and my own connection to the Chicago Planetarium goes back to 1984 with Joe Chamberlain, the former director, now it's called president of Adler Planetarium and Astronomy Museum. Welcome to Chicago, and I say happy birthday, Chicago Planetarium, to the, I think, one of the handful of most respected planetariums and most well-known planetariums on this planet. Thank you very much for your attention, and all the best to Chicago.
Yes, so now we would like to hand over to Andrew Johnston of the Adler Planetarium.
Great. Hello, all. And hello from Chicago. I'm really happy to be here. And I'm really happy to be connecting with people, not just at Hamburg Planetarium, but also in Hamburg. We're celebrating our 90th anniversary today. Happy birthday to us, and happy birthday to Hamburg just a couple weeks ago. On a personal note, you know, I've always had this interest in the history of planetariums. I began working many years ago in the museum business at the second planetarium in America, which is the Fels Planetarium in Philadelphia. Now I'm much better off because I'm at the first planetarium. We're 3 years older, so it makes all the difference. Also, as a personal note, I'm embarrassed to say I have not yet visited Hamburg, all over Germany, but not in Hamburg. But my wife studied in Hamburg all those years ago, and at the university, and got her going in the museum career where we later met. So Hamburg deserves a little bit of credit for us being together. So vielen Dank to Hamburg, most appreciated, professionally and personally. What I thought I'd do is show a few pictures of what we're about at the Adler Planetarium, and so. Give me just a second here. I'm going to share my screen, and I will call it up. And you're not going to believe the first picture that I'm going to that I'm going to display. Thomas, it's like we planned it this way. So this is the exact same image that Thomas had. As I said, he and I didn't quite plan it, but it's a perfect segue. We have the best view of the city of Chicago. This is Chicago in the background there, Lake Michigan. We are right out on the lake. This is the Adler Planetarium building, as you see it right there. The building that opened 90 years ago is in the center right here, our main domed theater. Many decades later, underground exhibition space was built in this area, where my cursor is right now, where the bus drives overhead. My office is right about there, and yes, I can hear the bus drive overhead. And then later, this area was opened. We call it our Lakeside Pavilion, which is another exhibition area on the lakeside. This small building here is our on-site observatory. We'll see a picture of that. While we've got this aerial view, there's also a work of public art right there that is shaped like a spiral galaxy, and the stones are oriented in a way that they're aligned with the winter and summer solstice, sunrise and sunset. But this is a contemporary image. Of course, 90 years ago, things were different. And I wanted to talk a little bit about the connections between Adler Planetarium and Germany, because those connections are legion. As you've already heard, and as you know, we're the first planetarium in America. But leading up to the time of the opening of our planetarium, a lot of trips were taken to Germany to learn about how to open a planetarium. The man in the center here is Max Adler, our founder. And on the right here, his left, is Ernst Grunfeld, who was the architect of the building. They are in Dusseldorf. We actually don't know the gentleman on the left here. If anybody knows, please let me know. He could be running the Dusseldorf Planetarium. We honestly don't know. But they visited that planetarium. They've, of course, visited Munich at the Deutsches Museum. Then these two gentlemen, Adler and Grunfeld, in addition to that, Philip Fox, who was the first director of our planetarium, who had done his graduate work at Berlin, did several trips to Germany leading up to the opening of the Adler Planetarium. One to Dresden to look at the history of science collections there. That led to the purchase of our history of astronomy collection that has since grown from those days, but it was in Dresden where he learned about different things that could be collected to talk about the history of astronomy. And of course, Philip Fox visited Jena to go to Zeiss to learn about the star projector, the wonder of Jena. And the first one of those machines outside of Europe made its way to Chicago in 1929, and then was installed at the Adler. So here's the Adler on opening day in 1930. It was a madhouse that day. It was initially opened as a Chicago Parks Department facility. You can see the cars and buses are lined up there. 3 years after the Adler Planetarium opened, Chicago hosted the Century of Progress exhibition, which took place on the grounds in and around the Adler. And in fact, that big World's Fair opened at the Adler, and for many years, people flooded in, and it was quite a success, even in its early days. Well, if we go inside that building, if you go up the steps where people are standing right there, and go inside our main lobby there, you will see a large ornate lobby. I don't have a picture of it right now, but there are seals for the planets of the solar system. We opened in 1930, which meant there were 8 seals. Pretty soon after that, with the discovery of Pluto, of course, planetaria and science museums started changing their displays. But we sometimes joke that with the so-called demotion of Pluto, we just had it right. We were 90 years early, but Pluto was not included in that lobby there. But if you would go inside, it would look like this. So here is the Zeiss Mark II projector. Actually, it's depicted here in the 1950s. It's been upgraded from its original configuration. But this was the star projector manufactured in Jena by Zeiss that displayed the stars onto the sky. And it really was a stunning feeling for guests in the 1930s, 40s, and 50s to come and see that simulated night sky. There's something very interesting about a planetarium at that time period where it was almost a back to nature kind of experience of seeing the night sky, but it's also an example of modernity, right? It's an amazing machine. If you follow my cursor here, this dumbbell-shaped design is what the Zeiss company continued to use for many, many years, up until really recently, actually. Each of these balls displays the stars in the northern hemisphere and then the southern hemisphere. There are moving projectors on here and here that display the positions of the planets. If you know your stars, there's the constellation Orion on the dome there. Then there are the small projectors attached here. These would display figures of constellations and things like that. That thing glowing there is part of what would display the Milky Way. So it's this amazing immersive view of the night sky that for many decades is how we displayed the sky. But of course, we also have the real sky. So here's a picture from much later. This is actually all the way from the 1970s, of star parties that we would host on the grounds of the Adler Planetarium. So people would bring their telescopes to look up at the sky. We still do that occasionally. I can tell you that tree is now gone, knowing the grounds. But now we're going a little backwards in time. We also hosted both star parties, but also satellite observation events. So here's a bunch of young students on the roof of the building using these tiny telescopes right here, which can be used for things like observing the positions of orbiting satellites. So after the launch of Sputnik, of course, there was a lot of interest in seeing satellites orbiting over the Earth. We also had lots of hands-on science activities, even from the early days. So this is the mirror lab at the Adler Planetarium. So these are guests lining up to experience what it's like to make a mirror. So in fact, we still have people coming to the Adler today who remember, oh, I built my first telescope coming to the Adler Planetarium. This is a picture from the 1970s from the opening of our on-site observatory. It's our Dome Observatory. You can't see the telescope here, but this is the base of the mount right there. And people are crowded around observing some images. This picture doesn't quite show it. We still use that on-site observatory, or at least we will when we're not closed because of the global pandemic, for our telescope observing. It's a large enough telescope that we can use it for public outreach, but also for research purposes. We're working a lot with local university groups to, because there are some science things that can actually be done, even in light polluted Chicago. Well, the way that we do hands-on science and connect people with science has evolved over the years. These days, one of the main ways that the Adler plays a role in connecting people with science is through online citizen science. The Adler co-hosts the Zooniverse platform, which is the world's largest online citizen science platform. And here's a picture of some folks in a space that we had in one of our public exhibition areas temporarily. They were working with computers doing online work. That's since moved behind the scenes, but we're still very involved in that, and it's one of the main ways that we connect people with science. And of course, we're still there for people coming on site to our museum. Here's a more recent picture. This was actually in 2017 during the solar eclipse. It was a total eclipse elsewhere in America. It was not a total eclipse in Chicago, but it was 90-some% covered, which is enough for us to throw a party. So we had tens of thousands of people show up that day to join us in a party. The viewing conditions were not perfect. You can see it's a little bit overcast sky in the background, but it was good enough that people got a great view of the crescent-shaped sun, and we were overwhelmed with crowds in there, and we just love throwing big parties like that, as you can imagine. So now back to this overview of the skyline here. I'll just finish by saying we're really proud to connect people with the skies at the Adler Planetarium. 90 years ago, when at the opening event for the Adler Planetarium, Max Adler actually said that we reflect too little upon the fact that the universe is governed by knowable facts, and that we are all under the heavens. We are all connected to the universe, each as all of us are to one another. And I'm really proud to be able to continue to live those words even 90 years later. So everybody, please come to the Adler. Please come to Chicago. I just heard earlier that there might be a group of people potentially coming to see us in Chicago in October for the marathon. I'm a runner myself. I'm not in marathon shape right now, but as you may know, the start-finish line for the Chicago Marathon is not far from the Adler Planetarium. So please come by, and I'll see you then. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. Dr. Andrew Johnson, the VP of Astronomy and Collections for Adler Planetarium. I've seen so many amazing pictures of this, of your location. I would just like to share another picture just from the external area. And where'd my screen go? And one other picture, because it seems that the planetarium has the best location for skyline in Chicago. Let me see if I can pull it up. Can you see that shot of the skyline?
Yeah, we can, and I never get tired of that view. Even when I leave, it's and at night it's stunning, as you can imagine.
It's really what a special spot you've got. You can see even the heavens and the city. Just
there are
incredible.
Even fashion shows at the Adler Planetarium or at the I remember. Are they still? I think you have a lot of corporate shows also because
it's a popular event venue and a popular venue to get married. Just you have to plan ahead, but it's a beautiful spot for that as well.
We also do marriages in our planetarium, but I honestly I cannot compete with the beauty of that location and with the size of that operation. Maybe you can tell how many people work there. I'm sorry, I'm not the moderator here, but just it's a huge enterprise. It's a big museum, as you have seen, much larger than we are in terms of staff, and just incredible.
Yeah, so we have more than 100 people on staff, and one of the things that makes us unique is that we are, and Thomas, feel free to correct me if you think this is wrong, but I think we're the only freestanding planetarium that has on-site science research staff, museum collections, the public observing, and visualization. We do show producing that we're not connected to a larger institution. It may be unique in that it's a freestanding institution that we do all of those. We do a little bit of all of those things.
Okay, thank you very much for that. We'll open up for some questions in just a moment, but I just want to remind everyone, since I didn't really introduce the American Club in the beginning, I'm the president of the American Club, David Scott Zeller. We have also Petra Forsch there, who's on the call. She's our vice president, and she's also a Hamburg ambassador or honorary representative to San Francisco in the Silicon Valley. And just a little about the American Club. Well, we seek to enhance the professional and social relations between American nationals, companies, organizations, and residents of Hamburg and Northern Germany. In pursuit of this, the club's activities are focused on the promotion of social, commercial, cultural, and educational ties and the enhancement of the American-German friendship. Furthermore, the club serves as a forum for intellectual exchange among Americans, Germans, and foreign residents in Greater Hamburg. You can check out our website, www.americanclub.de. On there, you can also see the events that we've been having weekly. We've recorded them. We had on March 27th, as soon as the lockdown began, we had Andrew Adair, who's a specialist on US government. He told us about the state of affairs. The following week was Consul General DARION AKINS, also gave us a fireside chat, which can be seen online. We did do a wine tasting the following week, a fun event. We didn't record that. That was a bit of a private event, but that was a lot of fun. And the following week, we had the Minister of the Bundestag, Metin Hackverdi, who's in charge of the 23rd district here in Hamburg. And he gave us just a behind the scenes a view of what's going on in the Bundestag, how are decisions being met during this period, what is the political climate like. And then last week, we just had Herbert Quelle, who was the preceding Consul General, German Consul General to Chicago in the 13 Midwestern states. He served from 2014 to 2019. And he gave us an interesting talk, far away from politics and COVID. He talked about his fascination of the harmonica and the amazing story of how this German instrument had been exported 250 million times to the United States and played such a huge role in the blues development in the United States, and something that most Americans, even there, that are playing the instruments and the population in general, is probably not aware of. So we're going to hear more about that. He's written a book called Monica's Blues about the subject, and he's just finishing a second book about that. We'll have him back when he when the second book is published. So I would like to now open the floor to questions. I'll unmute everybody. And actually, I'll keep everyone muted, but if you want to ask a question, go ahead, just unmute yourself and ask them.
I have a question, and well, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Sai, and I am in the Youth Advisory Council with our Consul General, Mr. DARION AKINS. And my question is, how many visitors do you get yearly by the Adler Planetarium?
So at the Adler, up until recently, as you can imagine, we were getting around 600,000 a year.
That's a very big number.
Yeah, the number is a lot smaller right now. It's really sad. We hope to be open fairly soon, but we don't know. Yeah, if our peak visitorship was many decades ago when it was free and it was nothing to shows. But yeah, that's about what we've been getting recently.
Hi, this is Charlene Sobey from Chicago Sister Cities. Just a comment or an additional fact about the planetarium and its location for those of you that may be interested in visiting it in the future, particularly people from Hamburg. Right as you go down that promenade and the planetarium is there at the end, just to the south of that promenade and the planetarium is actually a lovely sand beach. So if you do come in the summertime and the weather is good and visit the planetarium, make sure you bring your bathing suit because you can have a swim after you've looked at the stars.
Charlene is absolutely correct. It's a really nice beach. It's not big, but and it has a really great tacos available as well.
Have any other questions from the floor?
I had a question for Hamburg about how tall the planetarium is because it looks really tall in that video. So I was wondering how tall it was. This is Ella from Chicago, by the way.
It's 65 meters, the tower itself, but it's nothing compared to Sears Tower or any of the skyscrapers of New York. Sorry, Chicago. But it's one of the tallest buildings in Hamburg, where we don't have really, well, we have a few skyscrapers, low-end skyscrapers.
But it's an impressive building. When you're in the Stadtpark and you see the way that the park is laid out, it leads up to the planetarium. It's an imposing building there. It is quite impressive.
We say it's a cathedral of the cosmos. So sort of, which makes you think about yourself and kind of scale your own scale to the universe, comparing to the universe. And that's one of the tasks of the planetarium to give you an idea about the size of the universe, the size of the Earth, and to your location in the universe. So it's like homing you in a way, and also putting things into perspective.
Well, you put together a fantastic program there, Thomas. My hats off to you. When do you see, Thomas and Andrew, when do you see are there any expected dates just at this point, more or less, when you think the planetarium will be open again for visitors?
Here in Chicago, we really just don't know.
Yeah.
The cases the peak has not passed here, and so no, we're honestly we really I wouldn't even want to hazard a guess. I'm really not sure, unfortunately. Yeah.
Well, it's maybe a little better here in terms of perspective. We might open partially in 3 or 4 weeks, probably with some shows in July. So we may open the observation deck and the exhibits, the small exhibit area, but not the Sky Theater. We have one dome by the way, Chicago has 2 domes plus the Atwood Globe, which is an old historic sphere for only a few visitors. But so we only have 1 theater, but opening that depends on if we have to wait like the other theaters until probably September. But because most theaters don't have any presentations in July, August because of the summer vacation. But that's why they are closed until the end of June. So like the Opera House and the other theaters are closed. But we are different as a planetarium, but we regard ourselves as a sky theater, as a star theater. So we might open in July, but only limited with distance. So we can only seat, let's say, 60 to 70 people, but have a lot of extra precautionary measures. So it may not be wise to open at that time, but at least we are planning to maybe open at the end of June, maybe.
Mr. Kaupe, I have a question. You mentioned that the building was built originally as a water tower. And then in the late 20s, people decided to build a planetarium. Was that put on top of the building, or did you use all the building? So,
the planetarium is in the lower part. I tried to explain it, but the visual was not playing at that moment. So the dome we see from the outside is just the dome on top of the water tank, which is still there. So we have a dome, so a ceiling, then the water tank, and below that, about 30 meters below, is the actual planetarium dome. So we have several, like the 7th heaven above is like the ceiling dome. So we have the water tank still, and below it, the planetarium dome. The water tank is not accessible in the moment. We're working on that. It would be fantastic to do like an art space there. We hope to have that in step by step. We're working towards reopening to open for the public the whole building. So far we managed to do step 3, but in the future we hope to open also the water tank, which is the only big water tank still there, but without water, certainly. So that allowed us to put in extra access doors and cut through the foundation to allow for more space in the lower part, which you saw in the beginning of my presentation. So we have this bigger entry hall now, and below the dome and above the dome is the water tank and the ceiling cover of the building.
thank you.
I saw that on your anniversary when you were live in that water tank. That is such an impressive. It's just so massive. I can imagine there's a lot of potential for the usage of that.
May I quickly add something? There is a virtual tour of the building, including the water tank, on our site, on our website, where you can wander around even in an immersive way if you're wearing VR glasses, but you can scan around in 360 in the water tank, in the theater, in the lobby, and everywhere in this VR presentation, which is online on our website.
Yes, fantastic. Andrew, how are you? What other celebrations are going on to mark this occasion?
Well, we had a huge plan that was going to involve. As you heard earlier, one of the things we do is we produce planetarium shows and we do scientific visualization. So we had an opportunity to show our space visualizations in a very large platform here in Chicago. Here in Chicago, there's a building called the Merchandise Mart, which is an old office building, and they've been running large projected images there for the whole city to see. Well, at this time frame, like this week, we were going to be presenting space visuals with the entire city of Chicago to mark our 90th anniversary and so forth. And unfortunately, that, just like all public gatherings, that's had to be put off. So that will do at some point. But yeah, the large public gathering, unfortunately, we just had to call off. So no, it's just all sort of more modest things that we're doing online, and things like this. Yeah.
Well, so glad that you could join us. Thank you so much for taking the time. And for everybody here, thanks for taking the time. Before we go, Darion, is there anything you would like to also add in final stages, what we can expect from the Hamburg-Chicago relationship in the future? Just some things to look out for on some of the economic ties, some things that you had sort of hinted at?
As I said, the two cities have had this sister city relationship for 26 years, and they are looking toward expanding that relationship, and we're trying to assist them and support them as they develop and expand that relationship. So I really look forward to it. I don't think that there's too much in terms of details at this point, but that's just between the two cities. But the consulate stands and supports the relationship and will do everything it can to assist them as they move forward into the future. And I look forward to working with both sides and bringing everyone to the table to see, to make sure that we can make this relationship as robust as possible, which is something that is exemplified by the relationship between the two planetariums. Is just one extraordinary example of the cooperation between the two cities. So again, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yes, and Chicago's notoriously had some very long-serving mayors over the years. The Daley father, and then the son, and Rahm Emanuel, and now with the new mayor Lightfoot coming in, it really gives us a new impulse also to go further with the relationship. So we're looking forward to participating in that and having all the actors pull together and give a new impulse for the relationship. So I think that this is a good moment to wrap up and thank everyone for joining us here. We will just cut up this video just a little bit because we had a little extra parts in the beginning, and that we will take off. But when it actually officially started, we'll edit that, and it should be ready by tomorrow, and then we'll send everyone a link so you can use it as well to promote the sister city relationship, to promote Adler Planetarium Hamburg, and just all the work and volunteer work that we're all doing here to try to promote the relationship and goodwill between the cities. So thank you everyone for joining. Thanks for taking the time. Look forward to seeing you again soon.